Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and I'm joined, as always, by Tim.
That's right.
We talk about horror movies on this show as a horror movie podcast, and this is obviously a special month for us. It's October, it is the Octoberthon, which means we are firing through a bunch of extra episodes over the course of the month. It's a bit of a marathon, and part of what we're doing this Octoberthon is that we are working our way through the Psycho franchise. Obviously we did Psycho already. This is going to be Psycho 2, and we're going to start spoiler free. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers, but we're going to get straight into it. So Psycho. So I think the interesting bit of background for you on this, Timmy, before we get to the movie itself, is just looking at the context of why this exists, because
it's a number of years since the first one.
It is a number of years. It's about 23 years since the first film. So I think what's interesting to me about this is that this exists because slasher movies became big, right? So Halloween, Friday the 13th sort of kicked off this big slasher movie wave, and all the studios were trying to make their own slasher movies because they were cheap to make and they made a lot of money, and Universal went, oh wait, we own Psycho. We can do a Psycho too. And they got Anthony Perkins back as Norman Bates. They even got another actress back from the first film, which I didn't even realize was the same actress until I checked. So what I like about the idea of this coming back is like, okay, so what is a Psycho movie in a post like Friday the 13th world? How do they adapt the slash? Because as much as Psycho's kind of credited as being like the seed that spawned the slasher movies, it isn't really a slasher movie in and of itself. It doesn't function like a slasher movie. So how do you take that and then do a Psycho movie in that era? So that's what's fascinating to me about this one. I've seen this before. I saw this one when I first got the Blu-ray from Scream Factory a number of years ago. I watched it back then. Had you seen the Psycho 2 before?
Yeah, actually, pretty recently. I forget when it was, but I bought the box set, I think like a little earlier in the year. So I actually watched like all of them like pretty closely back to back, like maybe a couple of months ago. So it's still pretty fresh, but I mean, spoiler alert though, I not for the movie but for my reaction, I love this movie. I had no problem watching it again. I was actually very happy. I think this is like a really interesting, unique movie, and obviously we're going to get into it, but there does like a lot of stuff that honestly I don't think like any other horror movie really does. I think it's like a very interesting like kind of story, which based on a movie that should by all rights not have any sequels. Like the idea that they actually made something that is like good and in such like a different way though is very very, very intriguing to me.
Because I think I like Psycho 2. I think Psycho 2 is a pretty it's obviously it's done compared to the first one because it's not It's
doing a very
movie.
It's doing a very different thing though.
Absolutely, but not just from Psycho. I think it's doing a very different thing from other like slasher movies. At least because it's not like because they could have easily like done Norman Bates gets out of mental hospital and he's going around killing people and it just plays like a slasher movie, right? They could have easily done that. And what the plot of this movie is instead is that he is released from the mental hospital, and I guess that's one of the benefits of it being 23 years later is that you can buy that enough time has passed that if they're going to clear him and say no, he's rehabilitated, okay, 23 years, we'll go with it. And the movie's largely about like, will he snap again? And when killings do start, because it's a Psycho movie, there's going to be killings, but when killings do start again, it's like, is it him? Is it someone else? Has he snapped? A lot of the first chunk of the movie is his doctor, like sort of like say you're good at this now, Norman. You've got to control your mental capacity. You got a job. You're going to try and reintegrate into society, so on and so on. But obviously, not everyone around him is happy and thrilled that he's out and about and amongst people. So it's a very different dynamic throughout the movie.
I can't think of any other horror movie that does this. Like, imagine a Friday the 13th movie where Jason just like is trying to live his life, but people are constantly, interrupting it and trying to get him like, to return his old ways. You know what I mean? I think it's a really, really interesting concept. And, if I can put on like my Grant Morrison hat for a second, I also feel like there's like a little bit of like a kind of like a meta nature to it where like, it like looking at it like from this context, like it almost feels like he is a real person that is trying to move on, but then like these townsfolk and or I guess like the movie, or it kind of serves as like a stand-in for the audience, which is trying to do everything in their ability to be like, no, we want the movie villain. We don't want a real person that's learned his lesson and is going to live a peaceful life. Like, we want to go, back to the way things are.
I mean, hell, you could even look at it less to do with the person and more to do with he just represents like movies and originality.
Sure.
And the idea that like, we want new ideas, we want original films, we want things to move forward, but there's enough people who are like, no, we want a sequel, we want things to come back and to be the same.
It's almost like a really cool, interesting like meta, there's like meta context like on the nature of sequels there, which I feel like you don't really get often, or at least I can't think of any examples where something like this is done. Weirdly enough, almost like kind of similar to like Gremlins 2, this idea of like we shouldn't do a sequel, but it's like, all right, well, because the audience wants it, like here it is, and we're gonna like subvert all these expectations and stuff. But yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting ideas floating around here.
Yeah, Psycho 2, it's just like Gremlins 2, the new bag. Heard it here first, folks. Yeah, so no, I think obviously it plays with a lot of like, will he, won't he kind of moments, but it does feel like people around him are kind of, not necessarily because they want him to kill people, but like they just won't let him forget who he was. They won't let him move on. And it's like, if he does snap again, is it his fault that everyone around him is like just won't let him like be himself? And he gets this job, and he kind of befriends this young woman who he kind of wants to help, and she has a place to stay. He's like, hey, I want a motel. You can stay there. And it gets a bit more intimate than that, and it's kind of like there's all these little callbacks to the original film where he's like making sandwiches for dinner again, and he's like, oh, it's just sandwiches and milk, and at one point he's shown her around, and he can't say bathroom again. He's like, and overhears and he kind of stutters a little bit, and she's like, the bathroom's like, yep, yeah. So it does a couple of little things like that where it's like, hey, here's moments you remember from the first film. And sometimes I would critique that for being a little too we have to reference the first movie constantly, we can't move on. I think what makes it work to a point, at least in this movie, for these moments, is that we're constantly wondering, has he snapped again? Is he, like, he sounds like himself in the first movie, but is he himself from the first movie? And there's an extra little layer there that really makes it kind of work. It's like, and I think because he is more of a character, I mean, you joked about Jason, and like, obviously you could bring up Michael, you could bring up Leatherface, but all those characters are so like, and I don't say this in a bad way, but they're all very one note in the sense that they're killing machines, right? They're not characters in the same way that Norman Bates is in Psycho, where he has like he has subtleties, he has characteristics, he has things that set him off, and he has triggers and things like that. So so no, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting tactic. I give them credit for that. They didn't just repeat Psycho, and they also didn't just do a slasher movie where he's going around killing people the whole thing. Yeah. So, and because of that, I give it a lot of respect. Even I don't think everything in the movie works perfectly. I do think it is a bit overlong. It's about it's about an hour 50.
Yeah. Yeah, I came home like late last night. I was like, all right, man, I still got 2 movies to watch for tomorrow. And then I was like, well, it shouldn't be bad. They're probably like, what, each 90 minutes or so? And then like I looked at this and it's like almost 2 hours. I was like, God damn it.
And then the other one's also a full 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I know of what you speak, because I watched the other movie we were doing, and that was like 2 hours, and I was like, man, that was long for a horror movie. Well, at least Psycho 2 is going to be a brisk 90 minutes. And then I looked at the runtime and went, oh shit. In fact, you'll notice, Tim, that we agreed upon a time to start, and I was exactly 15 minutes late because the movie was exactly 15 minutes longer than 90 minutes. Not exactly, but close. So Psycho 2, he gets out. He goes back home. He's got his doctor friend. Who actually, I recognize the actor. Actually, I want to check him. Dr. Bill Raymond. Robert Loggia played him.
Okay.
I know him from other things. Yeah, Big. That's it. He's Big. He's in Big. I can picture him doing the dancing and the piano. He was also in Independence Day. He was like the general in Independence Day. Yeah, so he's an actor who popped around a lot. In fact, is he still working? Oh no, he died in 2015. But curiously, he's got a movie that came out this year. So obviously, some stuff that he was in got
pushed back,
delayed. Yeah, he was in the second Independence Day actually briefly. I remember that actually I don't remember a lot about that movie. It was so forgettable and bland. But I do vaguely remember him having a cameo. But he obviously was an older dude. So anyway, so he sets him up back at the old Bates Motel. The motel is operating. There was a manager running the place who was given this job by the state, essentially, who I did recognize this actor. This is the cop from Die Hard 2 at the airport, is what I know him from.
Dennis Franz.
Sure, yeah, Dennis Franz.
Yeah.
Did you check that name, or did you just know who that was?
I think I knew who it was because he was on I forget which one, but he was on like one of those big cop shows in the 90s, like the Commish.
He was on NYPD Blue.
NYPD Blue, that's it. Okay, yeah. But yeah, I just remember him as a joke, and I want to say there's a joke about him on The Simpsons or something. I just remember the name from.
What's interesting, he was in 261 episodes of NYPD Blue, and that was from 1993 to 2005, and he's not been in anything since. He got paid for 261 episodes. He went, you know what, I'm retiring. I've had enough.
If you, for the life of me, if you would have asked me how long that show went on, I would never have guessed 2005.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I assumed it was just a 90s show. I didn't realize it went in the 2000s. No, I agree with that. Is that like 12, 13 seasons?
That's insane.
That's a lot. I'm just checking how many seasons it was. Yeah, 12 seasons. Wowza. Anyway, so he's the motel owner. And he kind of plays the perfect sleazy asshole. Is kind of who he is, and that's what he's doing. Norman's not very happy that his motel's been used for like cheap sex and like drug use and things like that. And he wants rid of him and all sorts. But
are we in a spoiler territory, or are we just kind of?
Yeah, not yet. I'm just kind of giving the general kind of thing. Sure. And he, like I said earlier, Norman befriends this girl who works at the diner with him, which is where he gets a job as like a cook's assistant, and she's hard up, and he offers her a place to stay. Her name's Mary.
Mary.
And yeah, so that's kind of set up, and of course, there's a lot of great little moments that I like with where. Like, there's a moment with her where she hands him like a knife because he needs a knife to cut something. It's a big butcher knife, and then there's a moment where he just like he looks down at it, and it's the first time he's held a knife since he's gotten out. And it's just this moment of like, oh, she just realized she made a mistake. Like, she shouldn't have handed him a big giant knife. Maybe that was a bad idea. So they really play upon like that kind of thing with him. Like, is he about to snap and start killing people?
and again, it just feels like really. Like the movie's trying to tell you something, like the way it's like focusing in on these knives and like sharp objects and stuff. Like, it's a very common thing. Like, yeah, you're gonna have to use that in your everyday today life, but it feels like the movie is like pushing him like towards like, you need to use this.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I'm fairly positive on Psycho 2. Obviously, it's not a perfect movie. It's got nothing compared to the first one, but I think just for being different and exploring something interesting, it's a pretty solid sequel.
I was like really when I watched it earlier this year, I think it was the first time I'd watched it, and I'd been kind of interested because I'd heard some like things like people saying like, oh, what's like surprisingly good is like the Psycho 2, and it's like, really? All right, give it a shot. And I'm just really surprised at how like interesting and different it is, especially since like you're saying, it seems like it would just be such an easy cash grab to be like, oh, slashers are big, all right, let's do another Psycho movie, and let's have him escape and
put on the wig.
Put on the wig, move to a different town and stuff. And it's like, no, they actually did something that I think is like really different and you know, just really good. And then what, like, you know, and obviously there are still horror elements in it, and those like work too. So, you know, I love, like, you know, you can have your cake and eat it too. Like you have, no, it still works like as a good horror movie, but it's also doing something different.
Yeah, there's a couple of good kills. There's one in particular, in the back sort of third of the movie that I thought was quite good. Yeah, so I will give the spoiler warning now so we can talk about the plot in more detail and where it goes. But no, you know, and just one note as well, Anthony Perkins is pretty good. It feels like he slipped on this character
true, yeah.
after 20 plus years. He's that guy again.
Yeah,
it's perfect. So, no, so full spoilers for the movie, just to make that especially clear. So, and they could have went another route with this as well, with where it ends, but they could have done the thing where, like, he's been, you know, there's no killings throughout the whole movie, but he's been like tempted, and he eventually snaps, and you know, it's kind of like Carrie in the sense that there wouldn't be a lot of the killings throughout the movie, but when he snaps, it's going to be a spree, you know, in the last like 15-20 minutes. They could have done something like that if they wanted to, and they didn't. They did something else, and we find out, of course, that Mary, who's living with him, I mean, we get a scene where she's going for a shower, and you know, someone's watching through a peephole. Again, we don't know if it's him. Of course, it's the 80s, so we actually see more of her naked body because things have loosened up, like taste-wise, over the 20 odd years. And you know, but we find out, and he's getting phone calls from other. I love the notes that he gets. He gets like they're getting orders in the diner, and it's that little the ring where the order slips go on, and we see it around the other side before he spins it around, saying, you know, don't let that slut back into your house, love, mother. And like he's getting around to it, and it's building up, and it's during this as well that the sleazy motel like manager is in the diner. He's pissed off that he's been fired by Norman, and he's like trying to like harass Mary and be like, oh, you had sex with a psychopath last night, like, you know, you get strange taste in women, you know. He's just kind of harassing her, but it's all building up. The entire, I love this is one of the best scenes in the movie for me, is the way this all keeps building up to him seeing this knot when you see it's coming, and it's coming round the circle, and it eventually gets to it. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, and it does a good job of like playing with like you know, like, all right, is he really crazy, or like, you know, is he seeing this stuff, or is someone messing with him, and if so, like, why? But yeah, there's like this kind of level of like, just what the hell is like really going on.
Yeah, no, because let's play with that, and you see him see like a someone in the window or whatever, like he's, you know, like we would see his mother in the first movie, like, okay, there's a woman there. He gets phone calls claiming to be his mother, and it's like, is he just crazy? And we actually get a reveal about halfway through the movie that he's not. It's actually so at the start of the movie when he's been released, we get introduced to Lila Loomis, who is Lila Crane in the original film, and it is the same actress, which is cool. This was the sister character who came out of the film after the death of Marion Crane. I'm just kicking my cats away because they're whinging at me for food. I'll feed you after this episode, okay? So it's nice that they've got the actress back. It's nice that she's playing this character from the first movie. And there's a subtle touch where she married the boyfriend, her sister's boyfriend, after the first movie, apparently. He has since died. He's not here, but she's got his last name now. So that's a nice little touch, I guess. It is kind of weird though that this is post Halloween now and we're still using the name Loomis, because I'm like, okay, I just think of Halloween now when you say Loomis, even though of course Carpenter named the character after the character in Psycho. It's just really funny to me. But we find out later, halfway through the film, that this is actually Mary's mother, and they have been working together to make Norman appear crazy so that they'll put him back in the hospital. And her goals are relatively noble in the sense that she thinks he's too dangerous and that she doesn't want anyone to get hurt. But of course, murders start happening. The sleazy manager gets killed. Eventually, Lila herself gets killed. She's got the best death in the movie. She gets like a butcher knife right through her chin, and it goes up through her head. Really, really good effect. I thought that scene was.
I like the. I'm sorry.
I was going to say maybe good's maybe not the right word, but it's a fun effect. It may not be the most lifelike one, but it's definitely a fun effect. But yeah.
I like the young couple that decide they're gonna sneak into the basement to make out.
Yeah, yeah. Basements of random houses. That's what kids do to make out these days. Yes, or in the '83 at least. Yeah. Yeah.
But that definitely probably feels like the most like slashery kind of part of it.
Well, do you know what it feels like? It feels like they were worried there wasn't enough kills, so it's like, okay, let's just put a couple of teenagers in here so one of them can get killed. It's funny because it's almost like you could have just not had murders until the very end, right, when things actually go boiling over. But at the same time, I understand why they wanted people to be suspicious of them, because there are people going missing. Like, okay, there's people going missing, we have to be suspicious, and that ramps up the tension of like, is Norman doing this or isn't he? Yeah. Kind of thing.
And I do like Mary's character as well. Like I like that she kind of flips and like realizes like, oh no, this is like pretty messed up. Like when she actually spends time with Norman, it's like, oh wait, no, this is like he seems like, you know, well, legitimately like changed person, and what we're doing is wrong. And then you know, of course, it's like too late by the time. Yeah, you know, she. I
mean, hell, even if you don't look at the meta like commentary, you could say from the film, you could almost just say, no, there is a legitimate commentary here on just like rehabilitation and not believing in it, and like the idea that, hey, like maybe he has changed for the better, and does he not deserve a chance? Now, admittedly, he killed 7 people. It's a pretty extreme, thing he did, but totally. There's definitely some stuff to read into there. I like that the reason why she's convinced actually is because when the teenager was killed, like this is during the part of the film where they're really trying to freak him out, so they have like, you know, one of them dressing as the mother, and they also like dress up her bedroom to look like it was when it was like lived in, because we see it earlier on, there's just sheets over everything, and the bed rolled up and things. But you know, he walks in and it's like it's been lived in. It's like she's just been there, and he freaks out, and she locks him in the attic, and it's when she locks him in the attic that she you know, puts everything back to normal, so that later on when the doctor's there and the Norman's trying to show him that things are happening, it's like it looks like he's just going crazy. But because she had him locked in the attic, she knows that he couldn't have killed the kid. And so she's like, no, I believe him because it couldn't have been him, so someone else is killing people. So I like that. I like that she has this like proof that at least he didn't do that. Like maybe he is snapping and going crazy, but he never did that. There's lots of little things as well. Like when she agrees to stay in the guest room in the house, like she puts like a chair up against the door just in case he tries to get in during the night. Like there's these little things where okay, she's willing to stay here, but she's still kind of freaked out because of his past. I liked all those little touches.
Who was the sorry, wait, who is the person that gets killed by like they like fall down the stairs and then like the knife like?
Oh, that's the doctor. That's the psychiatrist. This is probably, okay. There's 2 good deaths because this is also great. Not necessarily for good reasons. It's like the most silly thing ever, and otherwise very kind of like down to earth or serious movie. So they sort of tease the stairs at one point because obviously there's that famous death in the first movie when the guy, you know, the PI goes down the stairs, where the suitcase goes tumbling down the stairs. Right. Instead of falling down the stairs, he is accidentally stabbed. It's later on when Norman actually is going crazy because he keeps thinking that he's legitimately hearing his mother on the phone, even when no one else is there and no one's talking to him. And even when his doctor's talking to him on the phone, he responds with, yes, mother, thank you, mother, and things like that. So he's actually starting to really snap. And the doctor's there, and to try and snap him out, because at this point, Mary kind of cares about him and wants to prove to him that it's not really his mother. She goes and gets the secret hidden costume, you know, of Norma Bates, puts on the wig, puts on the dress, and tries to talk to him as his mother to convince him that she's not on the phone. And it becomes this game of cat and mouse where she's trying to talk to him from up the stairs, and then I actually really like the shot. I mean, obviously the direction's not as good as Hitchcock, but there's a really nice shot from up the stairs where she's looking down, and Norman, just because of where the phone is, it's like round this corner, just goes out of shot. Like he just goes past the wall, the corner of the wall, and you can't see him. And as soon as you can't see him, it's like, where's he going? Like he could now be making his way to her, you know, just little things like that. But no, I really like that. So actually, one of the other things I really like is that the movie, it starts with the shower scene from the original Psycho, and it goes, the camera like goes out the room to the house, and then it switches to color. It fades to color when Psycho 2 comes up on the screen. I thought it was a nice little touch. It's like, here, time's passed, boom. Have at it. Anyway, I didn't get to the actual murder. I was explaining all that stuff about the build up to it. So she's getting scared. She started creeping around, and the doctor, who we don't realise is in the house yet, kind of like stumbles into her from behind, and she freaks out and turns around and stabs him. So she stabbed the doctor. He sort of looks at it all shocked and stumbles over the edge of the banister and lands on the banister. That's like, because he's got stairs going upstairs, but there's also stairs going down to the basement underneath the stairs, right? So he tumbles over from the second floor, and he does like a full like flip, and he lands on the edge of the knife on the banister, which pushes the knife further into him and kills him.
It's like so crazy, but it's like so fun to watch.
It's a great visual. I mean, you can't take it seriously because it's such a silly death scene, but holy crap. But I mean, I suppose that's the one thing outside, like, it's the one thing that feels really slashery about it is the deaths themselves feel like they're a bit more brutal, which I do enjoy because I'm a slasher fan, but it maybe doesn't necessarily fit the tone of what the original movie was.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I find it to be like an oddly funny kind of movie. I like, there are definitely, like, you know, more serious parts to it and everything, but man, there's just like some over the top parts that really make me laugh. There's one line that really gets me where I think like I think it's Mary, like, says something along the lines of like, I think she's complaining about someone, probably to me, but like, what she say, like, oh, like, I wish someone would kill him, or like, oh, he should murder him or something, and like, like very matter of factly, Norman's just like, oh, I don't kill people anymore. Like, it's just like so like matter of fact. It like really makes me laugh.
I think the line was, "I'm trying not to do that anymore." I think that was the.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Which is like so good. And then I do like when Toomey is trying to pick a fight with him, which is like so weird. It's like, why would you pick a fight with someone that killed like 7 people? Like, it's such a like, I don't know. Even if you are trying to be like, well, I'm more manly than this guy, it's like probably still not a good idea. Yeah,
when he freaks out at the diner with the note, he thinks it's the sleazy manager who's done this because he's out to get him, and he comes out the kitchen kind of angry, and the manager kind of stands off against him. They're kind of just facing each other, you know, a few feet apart. And Norman glances over at this cake that's on the counter with a big knife in it. Apparently, in the Psycho universe, they use giant butcher knives for every single job that a knife would be used for.
Yeah, anything that needs to get cut, giant butcher knife. Yeah.
So he looks over and, you know, he notices him glancing at it, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, go and pick it up, you psycho. Go pick it up." And I almost felt this character's sole purpose in this movie, outside of just being someone that we don't like who can be killed and we don't feel bad about it, is that he keeps calling him psycho, and I'm like, that's the title of the movie. Like, no one ever really did that in the first one. He's like, "Psycho, you're such a psycho, psycho this, psycho that." And that was funny.
It should be a sign where he's like, "You're a psycho too," or something like.
Oh yeah, he could have said that about Mary. Maybe Mary sticks up for him. Yeah. She's like, "You're a psycho too."
Yeah, he just looks at the camera like, wink,
wink, wink. Yeah.
But yeah, then it's funny. He like, eventually, Norman doesn't fight him. He just leaves. Like, not only are you a psycho, but you're a chicken shit too. It's like, calm down, dude. But I mean, honestly though, like if he does like end up killing this guy, I don't think anyone would blame him. It's like, yeah, look at what this guy's doing to him.
He's upset that he's lost his job. That's all it is. This is
like, do you think it's like strange that like we are rooting for Norman in this movie? Like, it's like it's a weird turn.
It is weird from a movie perspective, but it actually makes perfect sense when you consider what the movie's about. It's like we're rooting for him to be better, and I think the movie does a decent job of making us want him be better. Like, it actually kind of does that. It achieves that. We're kind of rooting for him to, like, everyone else is being so shitty to him, and like because we could have went down the path where he's just the clear villain, and obviously he does kind of revert at the end, at the very, very end, but. And that's a great scene. We'll talk about that scene in a minute.
Okay.
But like, because at one point he thinks like he's heard that he's got another mother, that he was adopted, right? And Norma Bates wasn't his real mother. No, it's okay. It's a bit of a weird That's one of those weird sequel things, you know. It's like, oh, Michael Myers is actually your brother. Like that felt like one of those things. But I'll forgive it because the final scene is glorious. So before we get to that, though, ultimately the police show up to deal with things, and this is. At this point, Norman has kind of freaked out because of what's happened in the house with the doctor being killed. And the doctor was obviously very good to him and helped him keep sane a lot of the time. He's kind of chasing Mary around, who's now officially scared of him. And they end up in the basement, and like the cops come in and they see her with the knife in her hand, and she's sort of like over above him. And also, she's going to stab him, and they shoot her. And the sheriff explains that it must have been her and her mother who were killing people because it wasn't Norman. There's those alibis. They were doing this to harass him, and they wanted him to go back to the and obviously, I think as the audience, we're sitting there going, okay, I don't really buy that they were the ones killing everyone. Like, I buy that they were pretending to wind him up and try to make him look crazy, but I don't buy that they were killing people. And I was like, okay, so not this time, but the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, so who's the killer then? Who's the person who's actually been killing people? Because we also believe it's not Norman at this point. He's not really got that snapped that much yet.
Yeah.
And so we get a very similar scene to the first film where the sheriff's explaining this to like some deputies and like some other people in the station, and Norman's waiting outside. It's very clearly meant to mirror the ending of the first movie, except he's a lot more just kind of like theorizing compared to the first movie, where he's just kind of said, so it's probably those two who killed everyone. This does not sound ironclad, Sheriff.
Maybe take more than like an hour of thinking about it.
But Norman goes back home and he's making himself some grilled cheese sandwiches, I think is what he said. And
toasted cheese sandwich, he calls it.
Toasted cheese sandwich, yes.
Which just sounds weird, but...
I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't call it a grilled cheese. I'm saying that so you'll understand what I mean.
Sure,
we call it a toasty.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which you can actually put different things on it, but the cheese is the main basic version, and then you can also add in other things if you want. Some people like to put onion on it or whatever. I don't know.
No thanks.
Yeah, I've never been a big grilled cheese guy, to be honest. Never been my thing.
I like it. I don't go out of my way for it.
Yeah.
When I was in Hong Kong, man, there was this one place that had these like crazy grilled cheese sandwiches that are really good. They had like a rainbow one that was so good. It was like blue cheese, green cheese, like red cheese. It was amazing.
Whoa. So this woman comes in. It's the woman who actually worked at the diner. There's an older woman who worked at the diner. When they introduced Norman there, she's like, I was the one who asked the boss to like give you this chance and like sort of give you a job. And she seems to care about him when she's there, but she's not a really small character. She's in a couple of scenes. She's not in a bunch of it. And at the end of the movie, she shows up at the house and she comes in and she sits down. She explains that, yes, I'm your mother, and because I had a bit of a psychotic break myself and was sent away by the state, and Norma took you in and looked after you instead of me. And because of that, I've not seen you, but they were saying all these awful things about you. I just had to do something, and he makes us some tea. And what's funny is that all throughout the movie, we keep being reminded that he killed his mother by poisoning her. And she, sure enough, starts to cough a little bit. And he could have just let her die, but instead, the moment here that I really laughed at and thought was hilarious was he picks up a shovel and whacks the old woman in the face with a shovel. She turns around and he just whacks her, and she's on the floor. And it's like, well, that was extreme.
And it's funny because you kind of notice it beforehand. It's like, why is there a shovel just hanging out in the kitchen? And then he puts it to good use.
Hanging out in the kitchen. It's hanging out. It's just chilling. Just chilling, minding its own business.
Yeah.
Yes. So the final shot of the movie is that she's now dead. He carries her up the stairs, and it's the same shot from the original, that bird's eye shot of the top of the staircase, where the mother's room's at the right hand side, and he's walking her into the room. Very similar shot, and then because we saw him carry her, the corpse in the first movie, and then once they're in the room, you hear the Norma Bates voice, basically the voice that he does for her, and it kind of establishes at the end of the movie he has become psychotic Norman Bates again. And it's kind of a tragedy because it's everyone kind of did this to him. He actually might have not done this. He might have been healthy and stayed healthy had everyone around him not tried to corrupt him and mess with him and make him look crazy. He could have just... So he's got his mother again.
Yeah. So it feels like he's finally, this is the end here. He's finally giving in to the whims of like the movie and the audience, where it's like, all right, this is what you want. This is what you want me to be. You want me to be Crazy Norman. You want me to have a, corpse of my dead mom, up in the attic or whatever. It's like, all right, fine. This is what you want.
Yeah, it's funny because like, I don't necessarily like the idea that okay, he was adopted, so he's got another mum. That feels really sequely. But the funny thing is that I almost like when I watched the original Psycho, I never really count anything in the sequels as continuity. Like I never could really, when I'm watching Psycho by Hitchcock, I'm not sitting going, oh, but this is not really his mom. It's actually he was adopted.
It feels like the sequels are definitely like their own thing. Like it feels very standalone. Like obviously, it's the same character, same universe or whatever, but it's like totally separate. Yeah,
it feels like an optional continuation. But it doesn't. All the things they retcon in the sequels do not apply to the original in any way, shape, or form. They just don't.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But it's a solid movie. It does some interesting things, and it makes us kind of care about Norman in a weird way.
Yeah, it's so strange. I really, really like this movie. It's just so like interesting and unique, and there's so much stuff you can kind of like look into about it that I just haven't really seen done that much before. And it's and in the end, it's like but it still does the stuff that's intrigues you, and there's still the horror movie stuff there that you want to see. But yeah, just really solid. So, like surprisingly so. Like I, would not have expected like a random, sequel to a movie like 20 years later or whatever, like to actually be good. But all right.
Yeah, it was directed by Richard Franklin, and it was written by Tom Holland, who went on to direct Child's Play.
Oh yeah.
And Fright Night and a few other things. Yeah. So. And interesting that it had some sort of horror talent behind it. That I mean, maybe wasn't super talented at the time, but became talent afterwards. So really neat.
I wonder how how people reacted at the time, because I do think it has like a little bit of a cult following now. Like it's not like most people probably don't have it as like their favorite horror movie or whatever, but I think horror fans, if you bring it up to them, say, oh no, yeah, Psycho 2. But I wonder at the time what people thought of it.
No, that's a good question. I wonder. I don't imagine it was received super well at the time, but I think I was pleasantly surprised when I first watched this. I thought, no, it's got a lot for it. I mean, it is a little bit too long. It does lull a little bit. I think once we learn that the mother and daughter are conspiring against them, there is a little bit of a lull there where it feels like we're just going through the motions for maybe the next like 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
But like, I really like. It's just a fun movie that actually is quite it's quite impressive with how it makes us kind of care for Norman more than anyone else, and we're kind of hoping that he doesn't go down this path. And if anything, I suppose you could complain that the ending is just a little bit too, let's just give you what you want right at the end and turn them into the Psycho, right? But the neat thing is that if you're looking forward to Psycho 3, and obviously we're going to do that next week here in Octoberthon, it leaves him in a place where he can be in a Psycho 3. He's not locked up again because he didn't kill anyone. I mean, he killed one person at the end, but no one that the cops know about. So it makes sense that he's still in a place where he's running the motel and he can, keep going. So don't tell me what you think about it or anything, but have you seen Psycho 3?
I have, yes. Yeah. So I've seen. You might even call me a psycho completionist, but I've seen all 4 movies, and I've even watched all of Bates Motel.
I have seen 3 before. I have never seen 4, and I only watched the first episode of Bates Motel and couldn't get into it. So
I actually do really want to read the book. I'm trying to find one that doesn't have a cover like from a movie, because I can't stand that. But I will read the book eventually.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I like the basic setup. Because even the first half, like I think the first half when it's just like Mary in the house with him, and there's all the little things that are hinting that is he like creeping on her? She's scared for before we even know she's like kind of trying to set him up, and she might actually be genuine with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
And and it brings back a lot of stuff without being like hitting you over the head like with references, you know what I mean? Like it's not like I feel like other movies, they would probably have like less subtle things where like, they probably have some like reference to like shower curtains or something, you know what I mean? Or like I don't know, something stupid like that. But like when it does like bring up stuff, it feels like, a very natural kind of way.
Yeah. The very final shot in the movie actually is also the poster for the movie, which is a really ballsy way to go. Which is Norman like standing on the steps, and you see the mother in the house at the window. And it's like, he's become Norman Bates again by the end. So, but it plays like a tragedy.
It's cool when and then like he turns on like the Bates Motel sign.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, there's that one final little moment. Yeah,
that's cool.
Vacancies. We're open for business, baby. So some stabbings and all sorts. And actually, that's another little moment is when he goes to get a key for Mary before he decides to just bring her into the house because he's not happy with the state of the rooms. He goes to get a key and he looks at number 1 and he like thinks about it. And he's like, no, I'll pick one of our numbers. Just really, really neat. Inventive sequel. I think it does a lot of interesting things. It sort of justifies its existence. Understandably, though, if you want to just kind of think of it as separate from the original movie, because it is like, it's made later by different people. Obviously, a couple of actors came back, but it's not like I kind of see it as this optional continuation, which is actually pretty solid. So, Psycho 2.
It's a totally different animal, but like still very satisfying.
So what would you rate it out of 10, Timmy?
I'm gonna give it a pretty big score. Actually, I really, really like this. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. It's like, it's so interesting. There's just really, I don't know, like a lot of stuff I just can't like stop thinking about. They just haven't seen done before. And a few nitpicks here and there. I do think it could have been tighter. That's probably the big complaint. But I mean, other than that, very solid movie for me.
Yeah. I think I've actually went up in my rating since I last watched it. I think I gave it like a 7 the last time, but I think I am going to go a little bit higher and give it. Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. I think I am pleasantly surprised with the sequel.
Pro Psycho 2 podcast.
We're a Pro Psycho 2 podcast. Well, we feel the same way about Psycho 3. Well, we'll find out next time. Well, next week, not next episode, because the episode's going up all week. It's October, damn it. So, now let us know what you think of Psycho 2 in the comments, and like and subscribe and all that stuff. Obviously, the big thing is to tell you about Patreon. Patreon.com/MailFuzzTV is how we are supported and funded by our wonderful audience. You can support us over there for as little as $1 per month, and you get an exclusive bonus episode once per month of Streams After Midnight that you only get on Patreon, as well as bonus stuff for other shows we do as well. At the $5 tier, you get to vote on an episode once per month. So go and have a look and see if there's anything that tickles your fancy on there, and if you'd like to support us and get some bonuses as a result, you can do that. But yes, so a boy's best friend is his mother. Okay. That was a movie. That was a quote from the first movie, Tim. But
yeah, I know.
you gave me no reaction. I thought you'd say something else, or give me a chuckle or something. I don't know. A conversation's like tennis. I served you a ball and you just let it go past.
Your knowledge of tennis never ceases to amaze me.
Tim can't keep control of his balls. That is the story to take out of this episode. Psycho 2, we are pretty pro on, so that's good. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.